Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm out of the sling now. It's been a month since I woke up from shoulder surgery, and in that time, I've learned a few things that I really wish I knew before I had the operation. There are three concepts that, had I understood them from day one of my recovery, I would be in a much better position than I am now in terms of my rehab. In this video, I'll explain what adhesive capsulitis is, aka frozen shoulder. I'll explain the phenomenon of guarding and why it's super important to understand it. And finally, I'll tell you why I wish I had taken more painkillers over the first few weeks after surgery. So, adhesive capsulitis, or frozen shoulder, just means pain and stiffness in the shoulder joint, and it's a common post-surgical phenomenon. For the past 4 weeks, I've been wearing a sling to help protect the repair and allow the tissues to heal. Despite following the instructions I was given diligently and staying consistent with my passive range of motion exercises, I've still developed a lot of pain and stiffness in this shoulder. And there are two concepts that I only learned about last week when I visited a different physio. If I'd have known these things from the outset, from day one of my recovery, I feel like I could have potentially avoided developing this stiffness in my shoulder. The first phenomenon I wish I'd been aware of is called guarding. After the surgery, the last thing I wanted to do was undo all the work the surgeon had just done. I had a real fear of moving my arm in the wrong way and blowing through the repair. In an effort to avoid this, I started holding my arm in an unnatural way, as if I was trying to keep the joint totally still. This behavior is called guarding, and for me, it becomes subconscious, which meant I was doing it all the time. This constant vigilance had caused the joint to stiffen up. All this was spotted immediately by my physiotherapist Liam as soon as I walked into his treatment room. I'd come to see him 4 weeks after surgery, but he explained that he sees many patients for their first appointment only 3 days after their surgery, and there's a reason for this. Liam told me the first thing he says to them in this appointment is, "You're allowed to move your arm." This is followed by reassuring them that they're not really at risk of compromising the repair as long as they stay in the sling and follow the instructions they've been given. This was a conversation I really wish I'd had on day 3. Once Liam had brought this guarding behavior to my attention, I was able to soften and allow my arm to hang naturally. But as soon as my attention drifted elsewhere and I stopped focusing on staying relaxed, I'd unconsciously revert to protecting my shoulder again. I realized it was going to take a lot of persistence if I was going to unlearn this guarding behavior. Next, I'll explain how pain meds could have helped me avoid this situation. I think I'm like a lot of people in that I don't like to take painkillers if I don't need to. I was given codeine and paracetamol and directed to use it as needed for pain after the surgery, but after the first week, I pretty much stopped taking it completely. Even when I was uncomfortable in bed and couldn't sleep, I didn't really feel like I was in that much pain. I characterized it more as discomfort, so I didn't really feel it was appropriate to take painkillers. I now understand why this mindset is problematic. Painkillers aren't just for unbearable pain. They can be helpful in avoiding the guarding behavior that can lead to frozen shoulder. The discomfort or pain that was stopping me from sleeping at night was also there during the day. I just wasn't as consciously aware of it because I was distracted by my daily activities. I'm a human being, which means I'm hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. I assume the guarding behavior was my body's effort to avoid this low-level constant pain. In theory, pain meds could have lowered my sensitivity enough to stop me from guarding my shoulder against all these normal, natural movements that didn't pose any risk to my recovery. The idea is that with pain meds on board, I would have been more relaxed and allowed thousands of tiny movements to pass through my shoulder joint as I went about my day. If I'd taken the pain meds, it also means each time I took my arm out of the sling to do the passive rehab drills, I might have been able to use a slightly larger range of motion. This doesn't mean the pain meds are preventing me from feeling useful pain signals that I need to keep myself safe. They're just desensitizing me and allowing me to move a little bit further. Over the weeks, the extra range of motion in these reps could really start to add up. The result, which I missed out on unfortunately, is to be entering the next phase of rehab with less stiffness in my shoulder. Instead, I'm now having to go back on the pain meds to help while I unlearn the guarding behavior and work on the stiffness in my shoulder. So, if I had a time machine and I could go back to the moment that I woke up from the surgery, I would do 2 things differently. Firstly, I would take the pain meds consistently from day one. And secondly, I would book in with Liam as soon as possible so I could learn the lessons that I've just taught you in this video. So, I was all finished editing this video and ready to post it when I started watching the Netflix series Painkiller. I was already aware of the opioid crisis in the US and the dangers of getting addicted to these things, but the story is so tragic for so many people that it compelled me to include an additional part in this video. I said earlier in this video that I don't like taking painkillers when I don't need to, and I stand by that. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that with painkillers, like everything, there's no black or white answer. They're useful for the reasons I've explained earlier, but they're also potentially dangerous and addictive. The opioid crisis in the US shows that these kind of things can be dangerous even when you use them exactly as directed by your doctor. So as I go into this second round of kind of using painkillers as a tool to try and get rid of the guarding behavior and loosen up the stiffness in my shoulder, I guess my mindset is to use the least powerful and the lowest dose possible in order to reduce the risks. I hope you enjoyed this video. In my next one, I'm going to explain the difference between passive and active assisted physiotherapy exercises, which is what I'm now using to kind of deal with the stiffness in my shoulder. After watching Painkiller, I decided to do some research into the pain meds I've been prescribed by my surgeon and also by my doctor. And I was able to compare them to the sort of fictionalized or dramatized doses that the characters in the show were taking. And I was really surprised by what I was found. Now this is getting quite detailed, but it's potentially the subject for another video. So if you'd be interested to see it, please let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.